Now, our next speaker is John Barrows, LinkedIn top sales voice, CEO at JB Sales, who will talk about how to transition from SDR to AE. John, over to you.
Thanks, Olivia. Hey, Olivia, can you see my screen just to make sure? All right, cool. Can everybody see my screen? Cool. All right. Well, I hope you can all see my screen and hear me chatting here. So appreciate you all joining today. Do me a favor, I'm joining the chat right now. Tell me thumbs up. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me and if you can see the screen. Anybody join the chat? All right, cool. All right, I can see the screen. Thank you very much. All right, cool. Well, it's good to see you all, and that was a pretty good intro into LinkedIn. For those of you who don't know me, John Barrows here. I'm going to chat a little bit about this transition from SDR to AE and why I think it is critical to deal with right now, as a matter of fact, because things are changing pretty fast right now. So again, but just real quick, not that it matters that much, but just to give you all some perspective of who I am. So LinkedIn top voice. I'm about 400,000 followers on LinkedIn. Been in the game. I realized I was member 36,541 on LinkedIn. So one of the first people on the platform. I was a huge proponent of it. So a lot of that stuff that Troy was talking about was really in line with what how I approach it. Also worked with some really cool companies over the years. So, Salesforce, LinkedIn, Box, all these companies, I've trained their teams on sales skills, right? Prospecting, negotiations, and everything else. And a huge part of my career has been dedicated to working with SDRs or BDRs in that initial phase to then help them execute, obviously, what they're doing, but then prepare them for AEs. And finally, I am all of the above. So I'm not a trainer here. I run my own little company. I'm only two people here. I do all my own prospecting. I do all my negotiations. I manage all my deals. I do presentations like this. I'm flying to Barcelona later on today to do training. So I have to figure out a way to do this efficiently. And so everything that you're going to hear is stuff that I've either done or worked with people on doing, and I do every day, right? So feel free to go in a chat and ask questions if you want. But I'll dive into it. The agenda for today is understanding the why you want to be an AE first and foremost. There's a lot behind going through the motions and, okay, this is what we're supposed to do versus what you really want to do. Then knowing what it takes, right? Because SDR, BDR is a portion of the sales process. And I think one of the most important portions of the sales process, because if you don't have leads, you can't do anything else. And then how to prepare. Right? How to prepare to become that AE, and then what you can do right now, like literally today, what you can do right now to put yourself in the best position possible. All right. So with that, let's talk about what it takes and why you want to be an AE. I wrote a blog post a while back called "Stop Doing What You're Supposed to Do," and the concept of stop doing what you're supposed to do was the fact that a lot of us go through the motions. And we kind of get a job and then we kind of spend our 2 years doing whatever it is. And then we get promoted to the next one and promoted to the next one, not really thinking through if this is actually what we want to do. And that's a critical piece here. So what I do a lot, I also do some coaching on just personal development. One of the things I encourage you all to think about is taking a step back here. And that 5-year plan, the question, we always get that question in our interviews, like, where do you want to be in 5 years? I used to think that was a stupid question. It's like, oh, I want to be a manager. Great. I still think that's a meaningless question in a lot of ways. But I think it's really important for us outside of that job to just think about 5 years out. Where do you want to be from a lifestyle standpoint? Forget about your job. Forget about your money for a second here. Sit down and think through, like, what does life look like for you in 5 years? Do you have a partner? Do you have a house? Do you want to be traveling? Whatever that vision is for you. And then back in to what it's going to take to get there, including the job and the money that you need to make to do that. Because I have so many SDRs coming to me saying, hey, John, I'm not really happy with my current job. I'm looking to, get another one. Do you have any suggestions? And I always ask them, okay, well, what's your vision? What's your 5-year plan for yourself? And they're like, I don't know. Like, what do you mean? Like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Because ultimately, if you don't have that plan, I always say, like, if I don't have a plan, like I'm going to be, say, dealing with this job, right? And I'm not happy. I'm eating a shit sandwich here and I don't like it. So if I have a plan, then, and I know that this piece is going to get me to the next piece, to the next piece, to the next piece that's ultimately going to get there, then I'll eat that shit sandwich, man. I will wash floors if you want me to. I will take out the trash if you want me to. If it's going to get me to that next point in my career, that's ultimately going to get me where I want to go. But if I don't have a plan, I'm just going to go looking around for better tasting shit sandwiches, and they're never going to taste great. And so first and foremost is put a plan together for yourself and ask yourself, why do you really want to do this? And do you really know what it takes to be an AE, right? The SDR is, I think, one of the hardest jobs in sales. It's the lowest conversion ratio of every aspect of the sales process, right? So, I mean, you have prospecting to getting that initial discovery call, and then discovery call to demo, demo to proposal, proposals to close deals. The rest of those conversion ratios, you know, if you're in the 20, 30% range, you're doing okay. But prospecting, if you're batting 3%, 5%, you are an all-star. And so I think it's one of the hardest jobs, and that's why I think it's one of the most important ones. You know, everybody says, you know, there's all these, I train negotiation, I train all this other stuff, but I'll tell you, there's one solution to every other problem at every other stage of the sales process, and it's a big fat pipeline. If you got a big fat pipeline, you don't have to worry about the rest of that stuff. I mean, as much, because you can put yourself in a position where you want the business, you don't need it. And when you want the business, you sell the right way. When you need the business, you do some shady stuff. And I'll tell you right now, for me, like a real talk, I grew this business to about I started in about 2010, went back and forth, and finally grew the business to about 6 million in revenue and about 20 employees. And then at the beginning of 2023, the whole tech industry came to a screeching halt, and my business came to a screeching halt because 95% of my clients were in SaaS and tech. And so I had to restructure everything. But for me personally, I had to get back after it. Now, I'd always prospected, but not consistently, like not heavy prospecting. And so I put my sales hat back on and went to work. And I was able to pull myself out of that abyss, if you will, but only because I knew how to do it. And it drives me crazy when I see AEs or even SDRs who are trying to just get through being an SDR so they can become an AE. And then once they become an AE, it's like, oh, that prospecting stuff's not for me. That's for the SDRs. Wrong. I fundamentally don't understand the mentality of an AE who thinks that prospecting isn't part of their job. Why would you ever want to rely on somebody else for your success? I just don't get it. And quite frankly, as a manager or as a VP, if I ever sat in front of an AE and they missed their quota, and the reason they missed their quota, they said, was because they didn't get enough leads from the SDRs or the marketing team, quite frankly, before that phrase even got out of their mouth, I'd probably kick them out of my office. So it's one of the more critical components of the sales process. But once you get into full cycle sales, there's so much more to think about. And some of that stuff just doesn't excite people, right? Like, you know, meeting prep and execution and coordinating. It's like a lot of psychology involved and closing. Like there's a lot to it that we'll talk about in a second. And some people are just not cut out for that, quite frankly. And so they get into it because they think that's what they should be doing because that's where their career should go. But then they realize, whoa, I am not good at this. And actually a great example is, my friend James Buckley. James Buckley, who used to be on my team with the Sell Better side of the house, that guy, he loves talking to people at the front ends, but he actually made the move to become an AE and was in there and was like, I don't like this. And he actually went back to being effectively an SDR. And so again, ask yourself that question. Do you really know what it takes? And is this what you want to do versus what you think you need to do? And then does it excite you? Like if you're not fired up, you're like, yeah, I can't wait for that next challenge versus, oh man, this is going to be a slog. Look, sales is about the transfer of enthusiasm. If you want to write this one down, sales, I believe sales, if you believe in sales and you believe in what you're selling, it's about that transfer of enthusiasm. So if you are not excited about the challenge to improve, run away. And then last but not least, have you considered other options? You don't have to be an AE. You could be customer success. You can go into operation. RevOps right now is huge. Like, are you great with the tools and the tech? Well, then maybe the AE side of the house isn't perfect for you, but operations, sales ops, enablement could be a great angle where you can stay connected to sales, but not have to have the quota. And last but not least, though, this is where I think as an SDR or BDR, right now, things are moving so fast with AI, and the stuff that I saw a couple of weeks back, I'm part of Salesforce, Sales Blazers. I'm, HubSpot was at Inbound. I'm LinkedIn Insider. I saw all the new sales agents that are coming out. And quite frankly, the front end of the funnel, as far as what typical SDRs do, as far as, just cranking out template cadences and those type of things, that is being taken care of by AI, and it's doing it better than we can. Now, phone is still a component of it, but most of the admin type messaging and research and all the stuff that SDRs are typically tasked with doing as part of their job, almost all of that is going to be taken over by AI. There's no question about it. So I think there's going to be some SDRs left who are like the cream of the crop and can leverage all this stuff. But the vast majority of them, if we don't figure out full cycle sales here, we're going to get replaced. And again, we're not going to get replaced by AI. We're going to get replaced by sales reps who learn how to use AI. So it is I don't even think it's my opinion anymore, even though it is, that we are headed back to full cycle sales. So if you are not upskilling yourself, then you might want to look into other profession, other aspects of the profession, like customer service or any of that stuff. Because look, this is the type of stuff that both roles have in common. We both have to prospect. I already said that before. We both got to qualify. And look, there's a difference between qualification and discovery. Qualification is about us. I'm trying to qualify you, BANT, budget authority, need timeline, something like that. I'm trying to qualify you to see if I can sell you something, right? Qualification is usually pretty quick. It's like, all right, you got this. How many of this do you have? That type of thing. Whereas discovery is about the client. And that's really where the difference is, right? Usually the SDR qualifies, and then it hands over to the AE to go deep in discovery and look for problems and impact and everything else. Time management obviously is critical for both roles, right? With AEs, it's exponential because you're now juggling a million different things in addition to prospecting. Objection handling. With the SDRs, you kind of we have to deal with objections without context, right? So it's like a cold call. So we really should know the techniques, right? So we can kind of handle them, because when I say without context, when you're calling into somebody and they say, I'm not interested, it's like, well, not interested in what? Like, I barely said anything. I have no idea about your situation. So in that scenario, I have to use a technique. I have to kind of pause here for a second, say something to keep the conversation going. Whereas AEs, they have to deal with objections differently, but it's usually with context, right? We've done some discovery. We understand what the client's needs are. So we can use different approaches when it comes to that and use what the client has said to us to help address those objections. Negotiations. We both negotiate. And if you're an SDR and you don't think you negotiate, I promise you do. Because we tend to look at things, negotiations as only the deal. It's not true. Negotiation starts from the minute somebody says, send me information. That's a point of negotiation, right? Somebody says, send me information. I go, great. What, when, who? What information would you like to see? When would you like to see it? And who else are you going to send this to? And by the way, get, when you want to schedule a call so we can follow up on that information, see if it makes sense to take the next steps. That's negotiations. And if you don't think negotiation starts from the minute, I guarantee you're losing out on deals. And last but not least, closing. Closing, we close for the next step as an SDR, whereas closing as an AE, we close all the way throughout the entire process. So those are the commonalities. These are the differences. Territory account planning, just active listening and discovery, problem solving. You have to become a problem solver. You can't just sell your stuff. You have to dig for problems and understand and have a bunch of solutions, and might not even be yours, quite frankly, so you can add value to the conversation. Business acumen, managing internal resources, multi-threading, all that stuff is now on your back when it comes to an AE. So how do we address this? One is move, like your existing role. If you're asked to do a certain amount of qualification before you hand it over to an AE, go further, go deeper into discovery, right? Get as much information as you can and learn product knowledge so you can actually bring some value to the table. because the days of a no value conversation with a client are over. That's the challenge with the SDR role. If like you call me as a CEO, right? And I pick up and you say something that's kind of interesting to me, and I'm like, all right, let's get in a conversation. If you can't carry that conversation and bring value into that, I'm gone. And if your answer to it is, well, now I need to schedule a call in a week with my SDR, with my AE or my whoever, then you're probably gonna lose me, because there's a million different options out there right now. So if I'm not getting value out of this conversation, I'm going to get out of this conversation really fast. And I'm not going to tolerate a week later having this, because I'm probably not even going to remember what it is next week. Interview AEs, I think obviously go find the AEs and ask them what it takes for your specific company to be in that role and how they made the transition. Ask to sit in on transition calls. Like when you set that meeting up with the AE, if you're not already sitting in on that call, ask to sit in on the call and just listen. Don't say anything, just listen. Be in the background, taking some notes. Like I said, deepen your product knowledge. You got to get to the point where you can answer questions. The whole, hey, let me get back to you on that one, that doesn't fly anymore. I mean, yes, deep technical stuff you don't need to know, but you need to be able to explain the different nuances of your solutions here. And then invest in yourself and training, books, and everything else. And I wanted to put up a couple. I know it was a little bit running over on time before, so we're running up on time here. But here's some books books and resources I would recommend that y'all take a look into. One is Gap Selling. That's Keenan, my friend there. It's very detailed on the gap of discovery, effectively, like of the current state and the future state. Then there's the Transparency Sale. That's on negotiations. That's my buddy Todd Capone, where he talks about how to negotiate in a very transparent, not sleazy way. Then the Challenger Customer. That one is for those of you who are going into kind of mid-market and enterprise selling. That one is absolutely critical. Challenger Sale, not so much. I wouldn't pay too much attention to that one. Challenger Customer, absolutely. Influence, that's more of a psychology book on why we do the things the way we do them. And this is where I would absolutely think about, because it talks about reciprocity and scarcity and all these different things. And it's directly related to sales. I put up one there, and I can send you this link to this gentleman's AI course. Daniel, who I had on my podcast, he actually started as a mid-market sales rep at Microsoft with zero sales experience, and he used AI to put himself as the #2 sales rep at Microsoft within 2 years. And he's got a course on how to use AI, because again, the idea here is not to get replaced by AI, but to figure it out. And that, if you are not diving into ChatGPT or Perplexity or any one of those tools right now, it is the biggest cheat code you could possibly imagine. Any question that you would have for me on how to be an AI, or how to be an AE, you can ask that, and it'll tell you the answer. And then my training program, obviously, this is what I try to level up sales reps to give the tools and techniques and strategies and structure they can use to improve. And last but not least, Olivia, what you can do right now is do your job. The number one thing that pisses me off about sales reps who are trying to be AEs is that they're trying to skip through this step to become that. I have reps who are like 27% of quota and expecting a promotion. If you are not crushing your job right now, again, not just because it's the right thing to do, but also it gives you that skill that you'll never lose. So when you become an AE, you don't have to be reliant. Do your job well, and then earn that. Right. Earn that. Don't care about what everybody else is doing. Just do the best you can possibly be at your existing job. And feel free to reach out to me at any time. I'll give you free tips. My Instagram handle is John M. Barrows. I give free consulting there all the time. If you did want to sign up from a program standpoint, go to my website, Training for Individuals, use reply, you'll get 25% off. And then you can email me at any time. Again, there's a bunch of free stuff on my YouTube channel, but you can also engage any way you want. And last but not least, 10-60-30. This is how I end all my presentations. Somebody asked me, John, if you could go out and tell your, like all those logos, they're all competitors of ours. So if you're going to train us all on the same stuff, how are we going to differentiate? And my answer was 10-60-30. 10% of you in this room are going to take what I tell you and execute at the highest level, because that's the type of people you are. 60% of you in this room are going to do something different because it's easy and it makes sense. And 30% of you in this room ain't going to do shit different. So the question isn't how many people can I train? The question is, what percentage do you want to be in? And that's your choice, not mine. So I do not believe we have a choice anymore, quite frankly, to be in that bottom 30 or even the bottom 50% of that 60. We got to evolve right now, because if not, we're going to get replaced by those reps who do. Thank you for your time. Sorry to speed through it. Happy to answer any questions after the fact. If people have questions, email me, hit me up on Instagram, and I'm here to help. Thank you very much, Olivia, for letting me go over another couple minutes here.
Sure. Thank you so much, John. That was really fantastic presentation and insights. Thank you so much for them. May I ask you to stay for a couple of more minutes in our chat in YouTube? And like there are some questions, and I think my team will drop other questions right in the chat. Like in order to communicate with the audience. I mean, people are so happy to see you at our event. Thank you so much.
Yeah, go Celtics, by the way. There's a couple in there. Yeah, so I will join. Do you want me to stay on here with the chat, or is there a separate chat on YouTube?
That's the chat on YouTube, so you will be like out of stage, and from there you can chat in the YouTube. Thank you.
Awesome. If anyone wants to hit me up on that, I'll be on chat for the next 5-10 minutes here, okay?
Sure. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.